you also did Writers of the Future.
Yeah.
So how was that experience? What was it like?
Huh, surreal.
Yeah.
A lot happens in 1 week,
Mm-hmm.
and well, there was a lot of good stuff, and there was also a lot of stuff that I could have done without in terms of racism.
Really, like overt things that you from other writers from the organization.
The judges and the organization, my fellow co-winners were great,
Okay.
and they were really supportive whenever they happened to be in the room and then they hear something quite shocking. So,
So I actually don't. I hadn't heard about any of this. If you're comfortable, is there any specific incident that you could talk about, or?
well, when during one of the workshop classes, somehow they got to talking about my winning story, and then one of the judges said that, when we get a lot of entries from the Philippines every year, and when we picked yours out of the pile, I had to check for plagiarism because it was that good.
Right.
And I,
One of those backhanded compliments that's really not a compliment,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and I was just sitting there and trying not to let my mouth fall open, and I also couldn't look at anyone else because, oh, what must they be thinking? I don't know.
Right, right. I mean, it's almost like it sounds like an accusation, right? And that's a terrible entry into American science fiction. I'm so sorry, right? I mean, that's terrible that you had to encounter that. Um, you also went to Clarion.
Yeah.
How was that? When were you there?
2014.
Okay, and this was in Seattle.
San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Clarion East. That is now Clarion San Diego.
Yeah.
Yes. And how was it? What were your? Do you have any like particular memories or thoughts about? Is it worthwhile in general? Would you recommend it to other writers from the Philippines or elsewhere?
Let's see. That's like Clarion was one of the best 6 weeks of my life, and I mean it's not just because of all the craft things
Mm-hmm.
that I learned there, but because my classmates were also kind
Mm-hmm.
and they were always down for something fun. Like one weekend, they all took me to the zoo,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd never seen a giraffe, and I love giraffes. And then they sat at a cafe that was near the giraffe pen,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to the bathroom, and then when I came back, there was one seat left at the table, and they're all looking at me. When I sit down, there's a giant giraffe peeking out over the trees, and I was like, and then it turns out that they had all talked to each other and said, "We're going to make sure she sees the giraffe from when she gets out of the bathroom," and that's just so sweet.
That is really sweet. So that's great. It sounds like you had a really bonding experience. Have you? And you've stayed in touch with some of them as
Yes.
it's been 5 years, right? So
Actually, one of them is my roommate right now for Worldcon.
that's great. I think one of the things we've been in one of our other interviews, we were talking to George R. R. Martin, and he really emphasized the value of being able to come to these conventions, come to places like Clarion,
Yeah.
just for that human networking. I mean, networking makes it sound very businessy,
Yeah.
which is not really what I mean. But it's
Relationship building.
relationship building, community building, and like it's scary. I think walking into some of these rooms on your own, right?
Yeah.
When you came from the Philippines, like, so what made you apply to Clarion? How did you hear about it? And
Actually, I applied the year Neil Gaiman was teaching Clarion West,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't get in, but I got a really good feedback from the
Mm-hmm.
committee. And then, so I was like, okay, maybe not this year. And also, I just graduated from college then.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year, I just happened to look because, I was like, this is going to be a bucket list thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw N.K. Jemison and Kat Valenti on the list of instructors, and I was like, oh no, I gotta try. I mean, even if I don't get in, I mean, it's kind of expensive, but I gotta try.
right.
And then I got in. And then I don't even know how I managed to get there. Like, I do recommend Clarion, but there are lots of barriers to entry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I did have one Filipino friend who made it this year, both to Clarion West and to the Milford Bursary.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually, he was actually granted a bursary from Milford, but he couldn't go to either one because he was denied a visa both to the US and to the UK.
I know that for this Worldcon, we missed a whole set of Nigerian writers who were denied their visas. Not denied, their visas weren't processed in time by the Nigerian government, I think, and so
the Irish one actually.
Oh, was it the Irish government?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's terrible. And so they were not able to attend. So there are of course these border issues in this world of ours, and which seem to get worse every year right now. Hopefully that trend will reverse soon.
Yeah.
But then there's the financial issues, right? I know when I was I think 27 when I was a student at Clarion, and I was completely broke. I was in the middle of an MFA, which I took on quite a bit of debt to do. Maybe not the smartest choice in retrospect, but I did Clarion entirely on credit cards, right? I just put the whole thing on credit cards. Said, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. At some point, I'll figure it out. And I did eventually, but it took quite a while. And I ended up paying probably quite a bit more in credit card fees as a result. So do you have advice, I guess, or things, I'm going to reframe that. Rather than advice to young writers, are there ways that you could see the systems change, that whether it's organizations like Clarion or things that could be put in place to make it more possible for writers like you to participate?
Actually, I was able to attend Clarion because they gave me a foundation scholarship. Mm-hmm. So that took out like 2/3 of the tuition, and then my family just had to make up for the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And
the airfare the airfare is a huge barrier, I think.
And then here for Worldcon, I am here by the generosity of Connor Bust. Mm-hmm. They paid for my airfare and for my accommodations.
Yeah, that's Kate Nepview has been doing incredible work with that organization for so long, bringing writers and fans of color to various cons around the world. So that's really great to hear. Yeah. If anyone listening would like to look for an organization to support, Connor Bus would be a great one to throw some pennies at, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So